Future Podcast. This is John Goodwin, your host. This podcast is dedicated to the aspiring writer and artist and will provide inspiration and tips from top professionals in the field. If you've been listening to this podcast or are new to it, I thank you very much. I would also appreciate if you took a moment to follow it on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts. Writers of the Future is one of the longest running writing competitions in the world, now celebrating 4 decades of providing a helping hand as initially conceived by L. Ron Hubbard. I also want to let you know that the Writers of the Future volumes are available in bookstores throughout the US, Canada, the UK, South Africa, and Australia, as well as through all major online retailers. Today's guest is Anthony Goff, President of Blackstone Publishing. I met Anthony when we shared spots on the Audio Publishers Association Board of Directors in the early 2010s when he was the audio publisher at Hachette. I always enjoyed events Anthony attended as he was one of those people who really easily became the life of the party. He warned me that this interview won't be what I was expecting. So with that, sit back for the next hour and enjoy. So welcome, Anthony.
Hello, John. How are you?
Doing good. It's when I told people here at the office, hey, I'm going to be interviewing Anthony. I announced it last week's staff meeting. And then this morning, okay, Anthony. So Gunhild says hello, and Kim says hello, and Julie says hello. Everybody misses you. So this is great.
Please send my best.
I definitely will. So I guess the first thing, just as an overview, so how did you get into audiobook publishing in the first place?
Wow. Well, I knew I wanted to get into the media and work inside of books, and I was a communications and English writing double major in college at Fairfield University in Connecticut, and started working at Dow Jones for the Wall Street Journal, National Business Employment Weekly, Barron's financial paper, and I was interning there and graduated not sure which direction to go, but I always had an affinity for print media and took a shot on a marketing job at what was St. Martin's Press at the time. Okay, Macmillan, Flatiron Building, very cool. Early New York's first skyscraper, 1901. Basic pulleys on the elevator. When I would get to the lobby of this building, it would sometimes take 15, 20 minutes to get up to the 17th floor, which was pretty cool back in the day, unless you were running late. But so I found my way into publishing and marketing roles, and Macmillan, St. Martin's led to Penguin downtown at Hudson and Houston Street in Manhattan. So it was a really vibrant area that I was working in sales at that point, sales and advertising and promotions. So I was actually able to work with when Stephen King was writing The Green Mile in the episodes, if you will, or small installments. The New York Times had to change their bestseller list because number 1 through number 15, when I was working down at Penguin, was The Green Mile by Stephen King, and then they finally were like, that can't happen. So that led me into another role at Simon & Schuster. And I started working again in sales and client communications. And by doing that, I was working hand in hand with the audio team. And at that time, Chris Lynch, who's the publisher of their audio division now and has been for many years, was a young editor out of college. So Chris and I got along really well. And I was doing a lot of marketing and promotions for the audio team, and always had an affinity for audio at the time, and did everything I could to help them. And then things took a turn, and I was speaking with their marketing director at the time, and she came to me and said, hey, there's a position open at Time Warner Audiobooks. Would you be interested in that? And I said, I'm looking to grow my roles, and audio was a pretty small segment of the industry at that time. So I said, I'm open to it. So I spoke with Maya Thomas, who was the publisher of Time Warner Audiobooks, and as she said on my interview call, I was preaching to the choir, and all that we were trying to accomplish with audio. and just grow the format and have more people excited by it and listen to it. And so it was a roundabout way to get into audio. At first, I thought my foray into audio could potentially segment me or kind of put me in a corner that I wasn't sure if it was an area I would want to be kind of locked into. But I decided to take a shot, and next thing you know, it was the advent of the Apple iPods taking off, and iPhones were becoming a thing, and Audible was just kind of starting out. Was only probably 4 years old at the time, 4 to 5 years old. So this is late '90s, and going into the early 2000s, it really started to boom.
Mm-hmm.
So it was exciting, and that's kind of how I got into it. I became the marketing director. So like so many audio publishers out there, the teams are lean, right? Publishing in general, pretty lean, especially these days, and always has been. But I took a role as the marketing director, and I said, oh, well, who's our sales director? We didn't have one, so Maya was like, well, you could be. Okay, so now I'm the sales and marketing director. And then as we're budgeting, I said, well, who's our finance manager? Who's our business manager? You could be. So I said, okay. So then I started figuring out the budgets, and the rest became history. After that, I became the associate publisher, and then Maya moved on to bigger things and was taking on ebooks and other digital roles for Hachette globally. So I became the audio publisher, and I spent 17 plus years working in audio and content development for Hachette. I don't know if I mentioned, so it was like Penguin to Simon & Schuster to Hachette. So I spent 7 years at Simon & Schuster. And so that was it. And next thing you know, you blink, and I've been in this industry for 30 plus years, it seems, and it's gone so quickly.
Yeah, I went through your LinkedIn. It's okay. So where do I get something? So I went to LinkedIn. I said, wow, it was a lot more than I thought. Because I knew you. I really met you when it was Hachette, and then obviously you had to have some type of growth curve to get to Hachette to become the publisher. I wasn't sure for that, so this is good on this. I've interviewed, I'm sure Scott Dickey, the CEO of Podium, and then Michelle Cobb, we've been friends with for a long time, and Robin Whitten, just in terms of the history of audio, and it's been a wild, wild west, and I'm not sure how much it's actually getting tamed or not, because you got ACX and these other companies that are doing this stuff. They get themselves a computer and set themselves up. Okay, good. And I'm an audio publisher now. Where do you see that's going in terms of audio publishing? Because you've got high end. You've got I listened to when I went to the Comic-Con, and I got one of those cards and listened to the Helldivers, the first one, the Helldivers. It's a high end production there. Obviously, he's a great voice that you've got. I listened to him originally on R.C. Bray to the Expeditionary Force, which right. just an amazing voice, unmistakable. As soon as I get it, I know that voice. So. So I guess I don't keep on buttering all over the place here. So where do you see is as things are going right now with audiobooks? You got the high end, and there's other stuff. I said ACX, and those things are a little bit lower end where people do it themselves, or they can kind of put together their own packaging. How do you see is things are moving right now with audiobooks?
Yeah, it's all about access. It's all about growth. It's all about expansion of the audience, and that's why things like ACX and some of the lesser even technologies to get people to record their own books, give it a shot, have helped through the years. It's not easy, and it's not inexpensive to produce an audio book. But over the pandemic, there was already a big move to home studios many years ago, and then the pandemic kind of solidified that when people just weren't leaving their homes much at all. In fact, I'm in an office right now, and I am the only person in here today. We usually have 10, 20 people at times. I guess it's a very popular summer vacation week. But no, most of the staff is working from home except for our studios. So the thing about Blackstone, just a little history, is we moved into they're based out of Ashland, Oregon. They started in Ashland, Oregon, because the Shakespeare Festival, worldwide, world known, very popular festival, is based in the hills of Ashland. And so all of the actors would come into that geographic area, and Craig Black, who moved up there from California, he decided when he was sitting in traffic on the I-5, you know how it is better than anyone, bumper to bumper all day, all night, 7 days a week out in California. He just, he thought he has all these books he loves to read. He couldn't read them while he was just sitting in this traffic going to and from work. And there weren't a lot of books available in audio. So he had the idea to start Blackstone in his car on the freeway in California, moved up there. My point is that we built this office in New York City. So they were small and started out literally stuffing cassette tapes in a garage in Oregon, right? And grew to a multi-million-dollar pretty vast publishing company now on both coasts. And we have operations in both New York City and Hell's Kitchen, which is where I am today, and in Ashland, Oregon, and people just based everywhere in between, basically. So during the pandemic, we moved in. They gutted this little office space inside of the Film Center building, which is a historical landmark because they kept the California films, right? All of the actual film from Hollywood back in the 30s and 40s was kept in this very building, right where I'm sitting. I'm sitting right now in a cold room that used to be a vault for the Hollywood films in the 30s and 40s. Yeah, pretty cool. Many floors of this were all like temperature controlled and humidity controlled. And so we kind of specced out this very cool space. There's a lot of other audio production houses in this building. So it had a feel. There's some agents, there's some audio and television producers and such. And we opened up shop, and 4 days after that, the world shut down. So just as they were about to all move into this New York City office, everybody stopped going to the office, which was interesting, except our audio recording studios, right? Straight through this pandemic, they either did things remotely out of the studios, or people came in one-on-one and were masked. And so it's the audio has kind of carried us throughout, and yes, very professional. Blackstone's been around. I always considered them an OG in the audiobook space. They have a tremendous backlist of over 20,000 titles right now. I get surprised daily, weekly, when we do these promotions and we send these out to our newsletters, and like, oh my God, Blackstone has this, Blackstone has. They have such a treasure trove of backlist catalog. But all this to say, it's been all about growth. It's been about people finding the format, these ACXs, and now with Spotify coming in, right? Apple getting into the game years back in a bigger way, and kind of doing some things, in the AI space, which I know you wanted to talk about a little bit later. Everybody coming to the format and getting younger people to listen. And that's been the most promising thing over the last handful of years, right? The APA works so hard to get good data to speak and listen to audiobook consumers and readers and such, to see what they like, see what they don't like, see how they listen, see how they operate. And one of the most beautiful things I've seen over the last few years as a part of the Audio Publishers Association was this growth of the teenagers and 20
Yeah.
somethings coming up, right?
Yeah.
When you and I started, John, it was like, highly educated, highly affluent, 44 plus years old, right?
Yeah.
Everybody was older, and now it's 18 to 25, and all these kids listening, and the world is opened up to a little bit more mass appeal, which is great for all of us.
Yeah. It's because I saw when all the report from the Audio Publishers Association, the annual report on listeners that came out, a month or so ago. It was amazing. You saw the ages are dropping down in the interest level. And depending upon I was surprised too that the listeners that listened to it a lot there was a higher percentage of male. I thought, because it used to be a lot higher on female from what I remember, but now it's, because it broke down into 3 different categories of listeners, the ones that listen to a lot, medium, and dabble type thing. But it didn't used to be so much on the male. They were like, maybe it's because it's such a diversity now of books that are available.
Exactly. And it runs the gamut. It runs the gamut from people who don't love to read so much to people who can't read enough and can't be reading as they're walking down the street or as they're behind the wheel or as they're, walking the dog or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So it opens it up to multitasking in a huge way. And another major change has been, back in the day, it was all about sitting in traffic, sales reps in cars, etc. Right? It was like, where do you listen and why do you listen? And now it's people listening, in their AirPods, people listening at home, people listening to relax, right? And so there's been tremendous growth, and we couldn't be happier with that.
Yeah, it's also a really good PR campaign too to redefine reading a book. So so now listening equals reading. So now
exactly.
So that's made
it used to be. People would think it was cheating, right?
Yeah.
People would think, oh, that's, can I really talk about a book that I read if I listen to it? And now people don't think twice because, the studies and the science have shown that listening to books not only helps accelerate your own, self-growth and self-help, but in children particularly, right? They can quote unquote read up many years, many levels by listening because they could comprehend these words, but when they're staring at them, they might not make sense. But when they hear them, they understand them. So the studies are there. I mean, it's just a tremendous way to complement, education, entertainment, for whatever you use reading for. You can learn. You can take yourself out for a few hours to remove yourself from the hustle and bustle of every day, right? So it's there, and it's growing, and there's more and more ways to listen quickly, which is the best, right? You don't have to do a lot to find an audiobook. Everybody has an audiobook player in their pocket or in their bag at this point.
Exactly.
So it's good to be mobile.
For sure. Now, when we were started in this back in in the 80s, it was. I mean, it just moved out of reel to reel, and we had cassettes, and then it started moving into the CD, and then the digital, and now the cassettes are gone with the dinosaur, and the CDs are almost fully gone now with the dinosaur. There's still some, but in terms of the next incarnation of audiobooks, because as it gets more and more technology driven on stuff, do you see? Are you planning for any new direction? Because part of also being up there with the big guys, you also have to predict where the industry is going and try to keep up with that, so you can stay in the lead. So, where do you see that going right now? Since that's probably one of your key things.
Yeah, continually evolving. People's attention spans are not getting any longer, and we fight just for seconds of their time.
I know, it's
never
crazy.
Mind minutes. Never mind. Yeah, never mind. I mean, your standard audiobook is anywhere 7 to 10 plus hours, right? So to ask somebody to dedicate that much time, not easy, right? So yeah, the future is going to be interesting, and digital is fantastic, and like you said, people have been embracing it, and more people are embracing it, and that's going to continue to change. So it is difficult to tell, but I do think, some of the shorter form, right? Some of the it was never an easy audiobook sell when you had something that was minutes or an hour or 2 hours even. It's like typically those audiobooks that sold best were the where people got the most bang for their buck.
Sure.
If they were using a credit or something they could really dig their teeth into. And I think, yes, with what we're seeing with the kids and this episodic nature of what Netflix has kind of done to television, and streaming has done to watching video, the way people are doing it, it's we tend to like to fast follow in the audiobook industry, because when music changed to streaming, it was catastrophic for the music industry. It was catastrophic for the artists and the publishers, the musicians, the creators, the people behind the scenes, right? Because all of a sudden people were just buying albums they were buying albums and CDs, right, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And then all of a sudden you don't have to spend $20. You can spend 99 cents, right? Or you can spend $9.99. And so I was appreciative of the cautious nature of publishing, right? Because we've been around for hundreds, thousands of years, right? Publishers, they're like, older than cavemen, some of them.
Exactly.
But at this time, audio has grown from testing the waters, so we have this balance that's been really interesting, because I've been on both sides of the equation. I've only worked in audio for the last 20 years. Before that, I spent, my first 10 or so working with audio, but on the print and then eventually ebook side. But so you see the balance of some stodgy old school publishers. Some still exist today where they don't even, they're concerned, they're stressed. YouTube and piracy, and right. I remember back in the day, you and I, we would laugh and say, "Oh, somebody wants to, pirate an audiobook, let them have at it. Nobody wants to steal an audiobook," right? And now it's, it's a genuine concern, because you look on some of these sites and you can see thousands of views of something that people are not paying for. That's the balance, John. Like, what we have to do moving forward is find that right area in between, people spending $32 for a hardcover and people not spending a penny for their content, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we could learn a lot. I think we could learn from other countries, other people who have been doing different things overseas versus, people here who have either, not been buying books or buying books in a certain way. And there's got to be a happy medium, right? Audio, we can't give away our content for free,
right,
but we want also the most, the widest amount of people to be aware of it, to know it, and to help these authors grow their audiences. So it's certainly going to be a balance of what comes next. And I think short form, I think, little nuggets, I think putting audio out there, giving people a taste of it. That's one thing we have been saying for all these years, is that people don't know what they're missing until they try it. And a small percentage say they don't like it. But most of the people who don't use audiobooks are people who have not actually tried it or incorporated into their life. So finding that way to give it to them, to give them a little taste, to have them not spend too much money to try it. But yeah, what comes next is going to be interesting. I wish I had my magic 8 ball hasn't kind of pulled that answer up just yet. But we keep experimenting with different things just to see what sticks, and love to hear from the people to see what they like and don't like. So these focus groups are always going to be important for publishers and the industry to keep.
Yeah, I remember that focus group that we went to. That Gunhill said, "Remember that
That's
focus
right.
group that we did?" Yeah.
Yeah. You picked me up from the train station in Philadelphia.
That's right. That's right.
And we sat behind these glass mirrors and just heard what these people liked. And some of them were really heavy listeners, and some of them weren't. But they all contributed equally and gave us little nuggets that it's kind of like A/B testing, right?
Yeah.
Like voice narrators, covers, right? People are gonna migrate to certain things. And so it's like, what's the stickiest? What can we get? What kind of glue do we have as an industry that we could kind of get people to stick with audiobooks and kind of use them for the rest of their lives?
Yeah. One thing that amazed me the most in that one survey that was being done was because with Galaxy, we've had a lot of attention on quality, just really fine nuances of sound. And we have so many sound effects. So a gun isn't a gun. If the gun's a 38, then the gun that you're going to hear is a 38. If it's a Smith & Wesson, whatever it is, that's what you're going to hear. But then talking to these people, that they couldn't hear the difference in anything. What they're playing it on is a real cheap little thing. So it didn't matter that it was a high quality thing for them. So that was a bit of an eye opener for me, like, whoa, because I was so concerned about that. But some people just, I can't hear any difference,
I know. It's like an artist though, right? Like I do often equate audiobook production to, it's an art form. And so people like us and producers specifically, directors, engineers, these people spend their lives with these, expensive headphones on and we spend our lives with people in studios speaking into microphones that cost thousands of dollars, right? It could pick up your small intestines, so for us, every little hiccup is something. And you're exactly right. When people are like, quality, no, we don't really listen to that for quality. And like, we just turned white after that. Like, oh my God, we just invested so much time and energy into making sure these sound amazing. But yeah, how good is good enough, and how good is what you want to put out there to get the most people, right? We always said it was you wanted that first audio book. If it was the first time somebody was listening, you didn't want them to say this is trash.
Exactly.
You wanted somebody to say, oh wow, this is different. This is, and so that's where I think we have our own, whether you read books or you don't, readers are going to enjoy audio as a different complementary way. It will be something that you could do. You could literally buy your favorite book, your favorite author, read it. If you read it in grade school or high school or college, right? You can listen to it now and it's new again. You could read it and listen to it, and it could be different even if it's new right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the book just came out, you can get varying, basic, kind of experiences out of reading and listening.
Yeah.
So it brings something different to the table, which is always, something that people probably don't think about if they don't know much about audiobooks. And that's something I always say, go back to your favorite classics, listen to them, right? And see what you get out of them now that you didn't get out of them when you were reading them, when you were a kid, or when you were, 20 or however many years ago. So, yeah, there's so much excitement around the industry, and I love how, another thing that's been beautiful has been the fact that we're all in this game together, right? We're all publishers and audio publishers, but from the very day I started with quote unquote Time Warner audiobooks that became, was then bought by Hachette and became Hachette Audio, it didn't matter whether you were Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, Macmillan, or Harper, or Hachette, or anybody. Blackstone recorded books. we were all trying to do the same thing. And because we were a small segment of the industry, even though we were competing with each other, I even say this today, John, there's so much content out there that there's plenty to share,
Mhm.
right? And business is business, and business and corporate business gets ugly. I mean, I worked for major global corporations for the last 30 plus years before coming to Blackstone, which is a nice, small, independently owned publisher, right? And that's very different, family owned. Um, but business could be ugly at times, but the audio industry rarely showed that ugly head. It was always 9 plus times out of 10. What can we do together to
Mhm.
grow this business? Right. And that to me was like the beauty of business, because I'm always looking to partner, find a win-win. And hey, listen, we can get some of what we want. You can get some of what you want. If we're both happy,
Yeah.
that's how things grow. That's to me the the beauty of business and life. And not that cutthroat us against them mentality. So the audio industry is kind of, a beacon of light for other businesses, I feel, from an insider's perspective. If more people operated like we all did, they'd feel better about themselves, I think, down the road.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of work to share, and we're all still trying to do the same thing, which is to get more people to
To
listen to
listen. Yeah.
books.
I was quite pleased. Was it 3 years, 4 years ago on the total book sales? The whole sales stat for the United States was up because of audiobooks. You had the ebooks
Hmm.
and print books were down for the year, and audiobooks was up, and that's what brought the whole industry book sales up for the year. I thought that was pretty good. That was something that takes a lot of effort from a lot of people to make that happen.
Really does. It really does. I remember years ago, a brilliant finance director, business manager of ours, Deirdre Bale. She worked with us. She is based in Virginia. She turned to me and she said, it's. She made a big prediction, and it was by this year, and it might have been like 2027 or some year coming up. Audiobooks going to surpass ebooks, and at that time, and this was so many years ago, I was just like, yeah, it could very well do that. That's insane.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, that's like already happened. Like we've been out selling ebooks, which people. It's funny, John. Because again, having seen and been on both sides of the fence inside of the publishing industry, um, with print publishers, with ebook publishers, with audio publishers, right? Like the mass market has gone away, right? Those
Yeah.
little paperback books,
Yeah.
right? Now they're 10, 12 bucks, and some of them are more than that. But that drugstore pocket
Yeah.
book that Signet started back in the day, that Penguin pocketbook, right? That format has all but gone away, similar to like the CD to some degree, right? But honestly, the mass market publishers years ago would be to me and say, you're killing my format. Your audiobooks are killing my format, right? And so it was like a double-edged sword. We were growing, and it wasn't necessarily at the other, at the demise of other. I mean, I think, quite honestly, once ebooks came around and people could spend $1 on an ebook, 99 cents on a whole book, and read it digitally, and have hundreds of books in their pocket instead of just one book in their pocket. I think that did hurt.
Yes.
That did hurt the paper industry, and the paperbacks in general.
Yeah.
But did audio? I don't know. People flock to audio, but I think we've done more to get the reluctant reader, and the people who listen to music, to listen to books, just as we're as responsible for growth as any. And you're right. They put us on a pedestal, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, but we're certainly on the radar in a big way these days.
Yeah. Now it's Blackstone. You do not just audiobooks, you also do print books now too, right?
We do. We have our own printing facility in Oregon, right on our campus. And we, again, to strive, like you said earlier, on the quality. It comes down to that. Like we're putting out advanced reader copies that look better than finished books from other publishers. We're putting out hardcovers that have just exceptional touch to them, right? And literal touch, literal feel, spot gloss, UV, matte, like the rubberized texture, the illustrations, the end papers, just the design, the attention to detail from Blackstone. I think you saw it when you came to the booth at that last trade show you were talking about. Mm-hmm. Some of these books, they just feel different. Yeah. They feel heavier. They're, we're going back and we're doing some classics. We're working with Sherry Creighton and have done some of Michael Crichton's earliest works, his first 9 books that he put out, had written when he was in medical school, and basically just made them look like collector's editions, put them into hardcover for the first time ever, right? Like we're putting out books that, if you love The Sun Also Rises, or if you love The Great Gatsby, and it's a book you've read, a lot through the years, or just one of your favorite stories, this is the book that you could put on your shelf. And it's almost like a trophy, some of our books. I mean, that's the first time I said that, but I think it's true. It's, and I know, like, people don't even put trophies on their shelves anymore, but I hear you're going to win one for this podcast.
Exactly. Now that I've got you, I'm definitely going to win.
No, but it's something to be proud of. And it's like people gloat about their libraries, what they've read, mm-hmm. what they like, what they, it's almost like the car that you drive, what that says about you, or the clothes that you wear and how you put yourself together, and the books that you read, what they've made you into today. So when people buy a Blackstone book, I feel like they're supporting not only the print, the audio, but the author, the publisher, but it's almost something that they can be proud of if that's something they love, because we're really kind of going that extra step because we're small and we
you can do that. You can juggle yourself around.
Yeah, we're just,
and it's, if you try to go for a little bit of everything, it doesn't do anything. It's just that's the epitome of mediocrity. Whereas if you say, okay, I'm going to target this audience, and you can go after different audiences, but if you're targeting a bibliophile, or you're targeting someone who just really appreciates a good book and loves that feel, and that's a total legitimate audience there. And it's there may be that audience that they are the higher end, more successful, or they've got a higher income that they can pay a little more money for a book, or for them, books is an important part of them. I mean, the number of people we see, because we do a lot of conferences, and so no, I only buy hard copy books. What do you got? And if we'll have like one of our Battlefield Earth books, can I get your first edition? I'd rather buy that and pay 5x the cost to have that than to get whatever the current one is that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a total legitimate audience. And I forget the name of the record company that used to do Blue. Remember something in my college days, they were high end, and they were very quality of their audio, and they're the records that you play on the records. Those are the people that had the more expensive turntables, and it was a lot better sound. So that's a very definite, legitimate audience that you've got.
Absolutely. And you want to cater to that audience, but you also want to make sure you have something for that mass.
Sure.
Right. When we were talking earlier, like how many listeners can we get to listen to audio? But yeah, Blackstone does a lot of things because, I was with 4 of the big 5 through my career, all but HarperCollins. And so I've seen a little bit of a lot at all of these major publishers in New York, and globally. And so, but what I love and appreciate about Blackstone is we do it differently on a lot of levels. And that book, is one of them. We sell our own film rights. We produce our own merchandise. We do movie, we do posters. We do, we could print T-shirts on our campus, and like we're so versatile, and we could help these authors and writers sell not only their print book, their ebook, their audiobook, but hell, you want to make socks, you love certain art, or you're an artist, like we could do things that are kind of within that vertical, and look at exploiting all those opportunities with people, right? What could be a movie? We've bought some short stories just based on the fact that we have a great guy based out of New Jersey who sells wheeling and dealing to Netflix and Apple and to Hulu and to all of the major studios. So we're taking a lot of shots, which is good, and you don't have that bureaucratic red tape. I can't tell you how many years my hands were tied. I was not allowed. Right, audio got us the tremendous growth that we've seen. Audio has grown this industry because we were experimenters. This is what I was kind of alluding to before, John. We were experimenters. We were always the first one testing it. And if it didn't work, you moved on. And that's what I like to do. You don't have to like sell your soul to it. You could just dip your toe in the water and say, that didn't work, right?
Yeah.
People, that's how you learn. You fail, you move on, right? That's the ingredients to success. And so audio publishers had been doing that for years. Then all of a sudden we get so big and so lucrative that we're driving so much revenue for these publishers that they all of a sudden, corporate headquarters, etc., want to put us in a square peg in a square hole, and say, well, ebooks don't do that. Why would you do that? Or, we don't do things this way. Why would you try that? Right. And so my hands were tied by these corporations because of their hesitancy to continue the experimentation. And that was ironic because we got to the point where we were off the radar for all those decades and years. And then once we were on the radar, they kind of stopped us. Yeah, they stopped us from doing what got us there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress.
Yes.
Thank you for the therapy.
Yes. So now one thing, when I was speaking with Steve Smith at Oasis about
love Steve.
Yeah, about AI and audiobooks, because I'm definitely one of those guys that's like ixnay on the AI, just that's not one of my things. And that's, I've interviewed a lot of people over the last couple of years about the use of AI in storytelling and audiobooks and just all aspects of creativity. What's the Blackstone mantra with regards to AI?
Yeah, I mean, we support our narrators, right? This is a craft. This is an art. This is what we were talking about before. Like, it is an art form that it's like telling, a painter that colors by numbers just fine, or whatever. And At the same time, do we use AI to help us a little bit with our production process, with some QC, with some marketing and copywriting, with, right? Like, there are little ways you could use AI to benefit, to speed up processes. Um, you know, we're working with a client right now on a really, really interesting um, project where I can't get too into it, but the author has passed away, and they're bringing this author back through the science of AI. Okay, and the Blackstone take is, hey, they're a client of ours. We will help them. We will distribute this product. It's really unique and very different. But again, we do support our narrators. We Hey, listen, listening to AI voice, and everybody says it's getting better, and it is, right? But there's a difference to me in listening to it for seconds, minutes, etc., versus hours. And again, robotizing the world for you know I don't know, in the name of either profit or efficiency or what, right? Like, again, talking about business and the ugly side of business versus culture and art. And look what goes first when people are cutting money. The marketing side, where you can get creative with how to sell. The art side in schools, right? The consolidation of art and athletics, and the things that people say are not core, or not as necessary as math or whatever. But you know again, this being an art, I just we don't we're not huge fans of having a computer read a book. If I was an author, would you want a computer reading your book, or would you want a great actor bringing it to life? Right. So it's just different. It makes sense in some instances, but no, Blackstone is smart about it. We don't record audiobooks using AI. We've used AI to help fine tune some segments of the industry, to help speed up some processes, to help again with you know some copy or some production, or um, things that have been useful in short order. But just putting out um, AI audiobooks, I don't know. It's a different thing,
Yeah.
and it's not
Yeah.
why we're here.
Yeah.
It's just.
I've listened to samples. Here's samples, like 5-minute clips of different sections. Like, okay, here's AI, different types of voices, and here's the real person here. Without being told what it was, I could definitely tell the difference between a real person and the AI. Even it was supposedly this is the highest level. This was a few months ago of AI work on voice simulations, and there's just different things. It just sounds different. If somebody, again, not that they don't care, they want to get the story, then you're going to have an audience that maybe it's for them, it's not a problem. But it's also like Muzak versus music. You got you're always going to have elevator music. It's not going to be what I'd be willing to pay any money for, but you have that. But it's interesting. You're talking about, like, what the first things to go, because the money for the arts and education, that's probably one of the big reasons why Rise of the Future has been so successful. Because I mentioned earlier, before we started this, that Ellen Hubbard created the contest in '83, and it was provided that launching pad for writers. And then because of that success, it was the illustrators as well. And we now have entries from over 175 countries. We get a couple thousand entries every quarter. So we get almost 10,000 entries a year, over 10,000 entries a year for the contest from all over. We've had winners from 50 countries. But part of the thing is, because there's no money or little money now for the arts, that they can enter this contest for free, and the winners are flown out to Hollywood by the contest. They're put up in a hotel by the contest. They're given these lavish awards. And then all these judges that are the big names of science fiction and fantasy are the guys that teach the workshops. They come and they can actually get taught by Orson Scott Card, Larry Niven, Kevin Anderson, you know, some of these major names. Anne McCaffrey used to
Great
teach.
people.
Yeah. So that is a factor that probably why the contest is so successful, because it validates the arts, and we need more support of the arts happening that isn't getting it right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. That's another thing about Blackstone I pride myself on, right? Because as global as a lot of these publishers are, and we're expanding, you know, both digitally and physically, in print, in audio, in ebook, and actual physical books throughout, you know, the world. And, you know, we started again out of this little shop in Oregon and now New York. But as we grow, it's one thing I pride myself on too, is, you know, that that Americana, right? Like we're using all sustainable paper, right? Paper sources, where our workforce is, you know, is here in the U.S. We're a U.S. based company. We're growing, but like we're not shipping, we're not printing things in China and shipping them over here. We're printing them in Oregon and shipping them, right? We're doing everything everybody else is doing, but it's all promoting the economy in our country right now to help.
Well, you're in Oregon, so you got your own forest too? Does Blackstone have its own forest? You got your own mill?
Oh yeah, right out our back. You look out the back and there's it right there. No, but don't put it past us, John. Don't put it past us. I wouldn't be surprised one day. But no, you know, you're exactly right. It's about support. It's about growth. It's about doing things wisely, and the arts are just critical to growth, to personal growth, whether people understand that or not. You know, they have to know. It's very important, and it gets undercut too much.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
And so that's not what we want to do.
Yeah. Now, like I said at the outset too, this is the Rise of Future podcast. So a lot of the listeners are authors. So what would you recommend as a path that a person can go, like, I want to get an audiobook? Audiobook is definitely a lot more expensive to enter into the marketplace than writing a book and uploading it on whatever platform you want to be able to go for, because you got the ACX, and even that's going to cost you money up front. What do you see as, because I'm not sure how Blackstone fits into that, and what's your selection process?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell young and aspiring authors, like I'll give them some information on workshops, and trying to find an agent is also not easy. But always be weary of people that are charging you upfront costs to create, right? Like you could look at Blackstone's site. We do have our own great website. You can see what we've done. A lot of our audiobooks are available on downpour.com. That is a vertical of Blackstone. So downpour.com is where not only Blackstone's audiobooks are, but the audiobooks of all of the major publishers are there. But, you know, like, we have acquisitions editors just like everybody else, right? You want your story to be heard. It's really hard to get it heard without an agent, right? But we just responded yesterday to something that came in unagented, and we're interested, right? So just because you don't have an agent doesn't mean it's impossible. But I would just say, reach out, have your pitch, learn how to sell yourself, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. You have to be able to, whether it's verbally or in writing, be able to share your pitch. If you have something you believe in, you need to be able to express that quickly, clearly, succinctly, within you have to have it narrowed down. Here's an elevator. Here's a 15-second pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a minute pitch. Like we're working with our first time authors. We have them do a pretty extensive author questionnaire. It's many, many pages and a lot of detail. And some of it is about like, well, write the copy. What's your sales description? How are you going to sell this book? How are you going to entice people to want to buy it? Right. And just having that much, knowing how to sell and present what you're doing is really important. So, but you can reach out, you can send the note to our generic Blackstone. We're monitoring every day. We have acquisition editors with their, heads out for new content. Like I said earlier, I think we're always going to have content that needs to be produced. There's always going to be some new thoughts, new ideas, and new areas of growth. And so we're always interested in kind of seeing what comes next. And there's just not enough hours in the day, but don't give up on yourself, right? Like, just keep on. How many times have you heard the stories about people getting rejected, Stephen King's or James Patterson's of the world, right? 13 rejections. Nobody wanted my book. And then, look what happens to some of these people. So just, have that drive. Don't give up, and I don't know, you don't have to push too hard, but fine tune the craft and find your ways. Ask around, talk to people like the old fashioned way, right? You're not gonna get published by sitting in your dark basement all day, every day, playing video games. You're gonna have to put yourself out there in a way that people can find you,
right?
And so that's important.
Good. Now, in terms of how people purchase Blackstone products, so you've got Downpour, but is it mostly that you're a business to business, so that people will get you by going through Audible and through other agencies, or do you sell more through your own?
We sell through everybody. The same outlets that Penguin or Simon & Schuster or HarperCollins or anybody sells, we sell. Libraries are super important to us. We always encourage people to check out their libraries, check out audio in their libraries, get a little taste, and so.
I was going to ask you about the thing about the libraries, because that used to be the place. That was actually the start of audiobooks. Recorded books is way back when, with getting the recording, and then it was just like you start from the very beginning. Here's the copyright page, and just reading in a monotone all the way through, no inflection, no anything. I'll just a straight read. That would go to the blind.
Yeah, talking books.
Yeah,
right?
talking about, but it's grown so much since then. But it actually got its start from libraries.
Yeah. I know, super important. It's just like bookstores. You have to treasure these resources that we have. Librarians are there because they love the written and spoken word, right? So are these bookstore owners and managers and such. And so, people talk a lot about influencers. They are the OG influencers in our industry, and the tastemakers. And it's just so important. Word of mouth is so important. You find people that you trust, people who know you, people who know what you would like. And then, they say, hey, if you like this, why don't you check out that? And that's what these algorithms are actually based on, right? So like people's habits. So, there's I'd like to think the human being cannot be replaced, but at the end of the day, you could use it all to your advantage. And so libraries are super important. But you can listen to Blackstone. You can buy Blackstone books anywhere books are sold, anywhere audiobooks are sold, your public library,
good.
And anywhere else.
Excellent. And I got to say, it'll be a definite sad day in Whoville if I try to call and talk to the president of Blackstone Audio and I get a computer. Serious sad day in Whoville.
I know. That's for sure. I won't. If it's up to me, John, I won't let that happen.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. Anyway, it's been great having a chance to speak with you. And I knew it'd be a lot of fun, and we got through at least half the questions, so that was good. So
maybe after you win all your awards, you could have me back.
There we go. Maybe one of these days, yes. Anyway, and thank you for listening. Subscribe to the Writers of the Future podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We've also been syndicated on the United Public Radio Network, where you can find these podcasts as well. Writers of the Future series can be purchased wherever books are sold in the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and South Africa, and available everywhere via Amazon.com. We are especially appreciative of our sponsor, Carnation, for supporting this podcast. Carnation was introduced in 1899, and 2024 marks its 125th birthday. So Carnation has been making delicious milk products for 1¼ centuries and is still going strong. Writers and Illustrators of the Future are contests created by L. Ron Hubbard to provide a means for the aspiring writer and artist to be seen and acknowledged for 4 decades. It is free to enter and open to amateur short story writers and artists of science fiction or fantasy. Again, thank you very much, Anthony.
Thank you, John. Great seeing you, my friend.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller and drama, and arts. For 5 years and with over 280 weekly episodes and 64 million plus downloads, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals. It is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age, race, ethnicity, or gender. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. We are all busy, but I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment and vote now. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all 3 of the categories: education, storyteller, drama, or art. News on the flip side. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program, which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as anchor host Joe Montaldo brings you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the News on the Flip Side in the category of news and politics. That's podcastawards.com. Please take a moment and vote now.
So Emily is polite. I mean, get the bleep out there and vote. So if you were on News on the Flip Side last night, you would have actually heard the bleep word, because you're an author's quill, you won't actually hear that word. But go listen to News on the Flip Side and you'll hear it. So anyway, people, get out and vote. I expressed this. I don't want to be a runner-up. I want to win. So somebody writes in last night, said, well, Joe, y'all get like second and third every year. What are you bitching about? I'm like, that's exactly what I'm bitching about. I'm like, come on, people. So, we do well. So I know a lot of y'all don't realize this, but the People's Choice Podcast Awards, about 5 million people vote. So anytime you see any of our shows make it that far, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's a lot of people voting. There's a lot of shows on there. And every year there's more shows that get in there that want to get their shows looked at. So, and it does come down to the vote. So they vote 5 million the first time. What is it? 5,000 the second time?
Yeah.
So they select people, shows that didn't make it, the hosts of those shows and other people that come in and vote. So you people, you got to vote. Plus, and you also got to apply to be one of those other voters. Yes. I know where all of y'all live. Remember that. I have Hack Tracer, and it goes out and tells me where all of y'all live. Just remember that. When the Russians come, I'm sending to your house first. When Trudeau invades. Yes, I would pay money to watch Trudeau invade something. He can't invade, but I would pay money. But anyway, we got a guest coming with the second hour. The first guest today is on hiatus, so we'll see her. And I think think
The
it's
third.
3 weeks. Yeah. So
She wants to be there when I'm there. She's a total Marie Whitaker, an absolute sweetheart. She runs the Superstars Writing Seminars, and I did a podcast interview with her, not this year but last year, as well as our next upcoming guest, Todd Fonestock, and Epic Fantasy Series, and just super, super nice people. I'm really excited about it. And then Todd sent me his he just published a book, which he sent to me on Thursday. And so I listened to it, just finished it just a few minutes ago. And it's basically his curve as an author, what he went through to actually make it as an author. And fantastic story. And just, you really get you need to really have a drive to make it, but he attends a lot of conventions. We'll see him. You're coming to Dragon Con, right?
yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, we'll see him at Dragon Con, I think. And then I'll probably see him next week at San Diego Comic Con. But I was just in Clearwater this last week with Orson Scott Card. We deliver a writing workshop to 130 people. It was just so much fun. We took the online writing course that we have that's free for people to take, the one that you've gone through it a couple times. And instead of playing his videos, we had him live to talk about what his videos did, but we still had all the Dave Wolverton and Tim Powers videos.
Yeah, that is.
And then all the Owen Hubbard articles that they would read. But it was, I ran it as a boot camp. I said, okay, look, we have a schedule. This is a crazy tight, target to get through this course over the weekend, but we're going to do it. We're going to be running you guys hard. So, it's okay, good. We got to get started right now. Okay, next. I was like drill sergeant.
That's how you got to do it, though. When you have limited time, you have limited time. Jackie, he is talking about the Writers of the Future course. So if you go over to writersfuture.com, there's a writers course you can take. It's a damn good course, actually. It's helped me in a lot of ways. No,